So all right, so R-Truth got released, and I was like, I didn't do anything with the other releases, and just because I was like, I was like, not that I was like I didn't want to, but I was just like, I just didn't really know what to speak on it. And then hearing how other people sort of took it, I was like, okay, I feel like maybe it's covered in a certain type of way. The reason I guess I'm doing this with R-Truth is that, especially now that I feel like WWE is starting to be, everybody's starting to turn that corner a little bit. Not saying that WWE still ain't the show, still ain't going strong, still ain't selling tickets or nothing like that. But I do feel like, look, when you're sort of like on a little bit of a downer, I guess, or something like that, some of your blemishes start to get a little looked at, So it's like people are like, "Yo, these tickets are getting crazy high," and it's like the problem is that there are going to be enough people that's going to be able to buy all these tickets. I was like, but the other flip side of it is you're basically, and I think you see this in a lot of the other sports too, like the NBA and stuff like that, that you're really going to end up pricing out regular people. That's what you're really going to do. That basically, I mean, this is the way of the world where it's like if you ain't got money, then hey, there's things that you just ain't going to be able to do. But now it's starting to be even more so. The one thing I will say with wrestling compared to some of the other sports is that with the other sports, you can tell the difference between like the people that just like love this versus the people that are just here just because it's like I got money to show. I bought these tickets that are worth $20,000 each. Where like wrestling, there is that flex, but you really don't get to really be at a wrestling event if you're not really too much into wrestling like that. Yeah, they show the people that there's a few people where it's just like they're promoting whatever show they got, but for the most part, all those people in some form love wrestling in a way that's like, okay, you will still get the wrestling people. You're never going to be where it's going to be like, man, this just doesn't feel like a wrestling show in that type of way. But you have that. You have them dipping out and changing WrestleManias just because I was like, it just feels like, oh, they came up with more money. So sorry about your booking arrangements, but I'm showing the deuces. I was like stuff like that. The way that, and I was like, I think really with the releases is that it's like the way it is, because it's like these don't feel the same way that when Vince was running things at the releases. Like these feel like, oh, I didn't think it could be. I was like, and we know how like Vince would treat people, where it'd just be like a bag and be like, get out, gone. We might mail your stuff. You can't even come back. Why are you? This whole thing. But all this stuff is kind of like the thing with R-Truth is R-Truth out of everybody seemed like a lifer. Like he always was going to have a spot. He was always going to have a job, and it basically just feels like, oh, if he can get released, it's not safe for anybody at any time, and everybody is basically outside. I want to say outside of like 7 that I could think of off the top of my head. That I'm like, those people are like stamp of approval, no, and we'll see. Because I was like, they're going to come. I was like, they'll come to a point with everybody, but I think even then it's kind of like, oh man, if R-Truth is gone, I was like, what, like damn, nobody's safe. I was like, nothing's sacred anymore. I was like, it's like, yeah, it's a business, but it's like also kind of like, okay, like a lot of times you can always just be like, we all understand that when it comes to businesses, we all got a job or something like that. That loyalty only is like so far. You think that you might end up being like treated good until it's not, and it's like it's your turn to go. But there's some people that you also feel like, oh, yeah, but I was like, they're gonna stick around. He always do what you say. He plays the role and all this other stuff, and that's sort of why this bum and it's just sort of sucky. And with the other releases with R-Truth as well, that is kind of like you are like they're releasing people like right after them being used as well too. It's like like most like at least with Vince, his releases were for the most part people that aren't being used at all in a way that's like, okay, you're just in catering, you're not being used. We're not, until we're not using you, it's wasting money. WWE were using these people and they're just like, nah, we're just gonna cut you. And it's just kind of like, and it's like, cool. I understand business wise, but then it's like none of these are also really making any sense. Dakota Kai was over here having Intercontinental Championship matches. Braun Strowman was being used to elevate dudes with like Fatu and Bronson Reed. I was like the Party City Girls. The Isla Dawn that were part of a tag team. Shayna and Sonya Deville that were part of a tag team. And where's like the tag team women's was already shit in a sense, and it's like now you just made it shittier. Okay, that toilet's all the way clogged. But R-Truth just having his thing with John Cena, and in my head I was like, man, they can still do stuff with R-Truth and John Cena throughout, because I was like, since R-Truth plays the naive little role, I was like, he can always be involved in John Cena's stuff. He could be the what sort of turns him around and all these other things. And now this is also just gone, so it's like, okay, that's done. And then it's kind of like, well, because this is also a thing too at some point. That it's like, it's not necessarily that it's like, whoa, it's them or whatever. Even though I do think it sucks that it's like, because it's like, it's one of them things that we also know, hey, it's $1 billion company. They could do all these things and they're not doing it. And that's what sort of make it a lot more shitty than just being like, well, it's a business kind of thing. Kind of like, especially now, it's like they're doing a lot of penny, like trying to get every single thing out of you, and that's what's sort of going around right now in the bigger scope of things. That is sort of just feel part of it. And so when you see somebody like R-Truth get like those, like, I was like, it does sort of like, it's like, damn, it's like, at least like all them other ones I can see, I'm like, oh man. I was like, they could go to TNA, they could go here. I was like, R-Truth, I'm not saying that he doesn't have product, he not got things to do. I was like, he's been around a long time, making sure he's in a lot of different things. But at the same time, it's like, he ain't gonna go anywhere else and wrestle. Like, especially because his character been this for so long as well too, that I was like, nah, this is just him. I was like, so I was like, that's the sort of the bummy thing. But I was like, also just seems like, I was like, then this is what I'm going to say, is that at some point, who are some of these people going to have to also fight again? Because it's like, everybody can't be on top. And I was like, you do need some of these people here to lose matches, to be used in matches. Like I said, like Braun Strowman. Like I was like, he had a role to be used. Because I was like, and now, like, I'm like, okay, so who's this on top block? Alpha Academy, but maybe they're not making as much. But I was like, also, does that matter? Because they got rid of some NXT people as well, too. That's kind of like, and I was like, I know we're about to have this influx of a little bit of talent, but maybe, I was like, could they get rid of people that's also, like, pretty brand new onto the roster as well? That's like, so, I was like, that's sort of the part of, like, that's what's sort of sucking, is the fact that it's like, I think that stuff like this and the R-Truth thing is that it's going to just basically be a light that's just start shining on WWE. The thing is, I was like, look, it never didn't do anything to really harm Vince and WWE to an extent. Like, over time it was. I will say that I was like, things are consistent and good enough that I was like, it won't get to Triple H right now. But I do think also the time that it took for everybody to sort of like get off of WWE from the whole Vince thing, to the point that people were still like it's like, we're done. He was still making enough money to where it didn't matter, but to be done. I don't think that Triple H will have that same large amount. And I was like, I don't think this is all just him either. Because I seen somebody say like, hey, if Tripp wanted them there, then they would be there. And I was like, I'm not, or Shawn Michaels as well too. And I was like, I don't think that it's not that they don't have a voice or whatever like that. The thing is that a lot of people don't understand. It's like, yeah, if they wanted them there, they would be there. But if you have a decision between where it's like, you need to get rid of this amount, and then you're looking at like 15 names, you got to pick 6. So it's not that, I was like, so it's like, yeah, he would, if he did want them, they would stay. But then that means somebody else would have to go. So that's sort of where this all looks at. And that's why I was like, if it is that of how I'm describing it, I was like, hey, only so much you can do. Also, this is like a rated R shirt. It's not. It's not. Tony Hawk shirt, but that's a different story. Anyway, yeah, that's all it is of the Orange Truth and all them whatever. Yeah, if there's any more, obviously they have something to say. Until then, I mean, I was like, hope there's not too many releases, but I was like, I expect that we're going to get so many amount of call ups that I think that it will soar to bring that. I was like, bring down what that, what, kind of like the internet. Look, there's some stuff that stays and then it's gone, and I was like, this is one of the things that will go unless there are more releases, and then we also don't really get any call ups with it. I think that's sort of how the matching has to go, because a lot of people pointed out that's like getting Rusev and Aleister Black, and you also got to think Phoenix and Penta and stuff like that. That would kind of like, if you're bringing in the money to pay them, then some money got to go in order for this pipe to be released, in order for water to roll through. And I feel like that's what people thinking is. And so if you don't get them call up, then this is going to kind of be like, what is all this for? A couple years in the future or something like that. So we'll see. Anyway, till then, I'm out.